All right. Well, I want to welcome all of y'all to episode 8 of Stretch. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing well. My name's Phil. Your name's Phil.
My name is Phil.
Here we are.
That's right. That's right. It's good to see you all. I hope you're having a great start of a new year. We're into week 2 of 2020, and so I hope everything is going as planned.
You know, it kind of feels the same as last year so far.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a new year, and we'll definitely see how things go moving
Sounds good.
forward.
Sounds great.
Well, I might have to come up with some New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolutions.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
That is what we're talking about today. So our Facebook question of the day, you go on Facebook, find it. You can comment in our chats below. Is what are your New Year's resolutions? And I say that because
What do you mean by that?
I don't want you posting on there, Phil, my resolution this year is to be able to grow a beard. I don't want you did that last year, you did it the year before. The I'm gonna lose weight resolution. I'm gonna, everybody's got those resolutions.
Have I said that?
I don't know if you have, but I know I do. I'm going to go to the gym resolution. We get it. All of us have those resolutions, but hopefully, more than just those resolutions we intend to break within the first month. What are some of the new things that we're looking forward to do? What in 2020 is going to be different from 2019? I mean, we're already, like I said, a week and a half in, and if you haven't started,
It's time to
where
go.
are we going? Yeah. So, I mean, you got some New Year's resolutions?
Well, me personally, I do. Some of them are old, so they're not new
Right.
resolutions, but some things have changed in my life as I grow and mature. Obviously, there are some challenges that come with that, and so one of my New Year's resolutions is to get control of my finances. My wife and I, Sarah, get control of our finances, get that under wraps. It counts now. As you get older, it starts to count more. And
You're adulting.
We are adulting, and so finances, it's a necessity
Right.
for us. It's not a New Year's resolution. It's you need to do this or you will crash and burn.
I got my second kid going to college this year. I attest to that. If you're not planning today, the day's going to come where you're throwing all your kids into college. You're going to wish, I wish I had things settled down, ready to
Right.
go.
So that's one of mine. Do you want more?
That's cool. Well, yeah.
That's just the first one.
That's just the first one.
Obviously, as pastors, we are called to be in the Word of God every single day. So once again, I'm reading through the Bible.
Great.
So that's an old new resolution. It's actually been, I think, a couple years for me going through the whole text from cover to cover. You do sections, or you might hone in. I was deep into Matthew last year, just big on the Sermon on the Mount. Christian ethics, and so going just from cover to cover, covering the whole narrative of Scripture, reading all those cool Old Testament stories.
Yeah.
And just revisiting some doctrine and theology and studying Jesus' life in the New Testament. So cover to cover for me this year, not just specific.
That's great. I love that. For me this year, and I mean, there's always so many ministry goals and family goals. I told you we got kids going off to college this year. We got things happening all the time. But for me, I'm trying to prioritize ministry and what's going on in my life. This year's been a big change. It's been a real big blessing. My wife has got a great full-time job that she's enjoying, and that's allowing me to have a little more freedom into how much I'm putting into ministry work. And you can get bogged down in the minutia of ministry sometimes, where you're just, making sure the bills are met and you're doing the routine stuff, and you miss out on really making that kingdom impact. How are you changing stuff? How are you really having that positive influence in your church and your community? And that's been a real burden on my heart. We've been here a little over a year. We now kind of feel and more like we're New Englanders.
Do you feel like Connecticut culture?
I feel like I have a better understanding of it. Like I can walk out there and not look like I'm totally awkward where we are. And really, this past year developed a passion for Connecticut. Before it was, hey, here's here's a place, somebody needs to be there, and I'm going to step up. But now it's like, these are my people, this is my place, and what can I do to help? And so, doing everything I can to take the people that God has surrounded me with, and allowing, allowing myself the time to teach, to mentor, to lead, to guide, to give new understanding and new insight. I mean, this vlog is part of that.
I was
sitting
just gonna
down.
we're gonna see that on this.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping, our whole point of Stretched is trying to help people balance, how do I connect with the world, and how do I stay obedient to Scripture. And so we've got that balance in it. And up here, it's more important than ever because there's so little gospel penetration in the average person, and they will not give you the time of day if they don't find value in who you are, value in what you're saying. And so you have to walk that tightrope where the true value is in the spiritual things that you have in your relationship with Jesus Christ, but they don't value that, and so you have to engage them in their world in order to be a witness of the things that God's done for you. And I want to be able to teach that more proactively. And so we're doing that through this blog, and we'll talk some more maybe about some resolutions we have for the vlog. I want to do that more through the church. I'm working with the Baptist Convention of New England. I'm going to be working on their teaching team this year. So the teaching events we have for pastors and church planters and even lay people throughout New England, I'm going to be more involved in that, working with some of those, teaching some of those, coordinating some of those things that are going on. Just a lot of things that are going to be working on that. And then we're actually going to be adding, not you and me, Phil here on Stretch, but we're the church, through our YouTube page, we're going to be adding another Bible study. It's really going to be promoing this week, and then the Bible study will actually start next week, where we're really taking on that challenge to ask that question, who's your one, which J.D. Greer has challenged our churches across the country to be a part of. And so we're going to take space here on the internet to encourage our people to learn how to identify a lost person, a needy person in their lives that they can minister into, and then teach them the skills that they need in order to go out and reach. And I would love for that to become a full-time part of what we're doing here at Centerpoint 840. For those of you that don't know, we are at Centerpoint 840. We want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you'll be able to easily find what we're doing. Click that notification bell so that when something's happening, it can remind you, and then you'll know when Stretched is happening. You'll know when the Who's Your One is happening, and anytime we do extra content, then it will alert you to that and let you know that's going on. And so that's something that's really passionate to me. Being in this field, on the cutting edge of how are we reaching out to people, I think it has long-term implications because generations beyond us are going to be so much more digital in how they reach and learn and stuff. And so that's a priority for me, to learn how to do it well so that we can use that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, I think it was last week, how Amazon has changed the past decade. Tech is big. Yeah. And we, as a church and as a ministry, and I think it's everybody's trying to carve out a little piece of their calling on the internet. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing, is producing some good content, quality content,
yeah.
Deep theological Bible, practical though, and then just, vlogs like this where you got two dudes sitting on chairs and drinking a cup of coffee and talking about.
I don't have mine, but
talking about real stuff though.
Yeah.
Just New Year's resolutions and what does that mean for the individual? What does that mean for the church? What are your, engaging? It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff, and I'm excited about it. Now, for those of you that are just watching us on the internet and maybe don't know our situation, we are in Wethersfield, Connecticut, which is just south of Hartford. So Hartford's the capital, and really Wethersfield is one of those suburbs, and there's more people that live in the suburbs than actually live in Hartford. But everybody travels into Hartford to go work and stuff, so it's a big town. But
I'll be there today.
Yeah, Phil will be heading in to work today. But we find ourselves, right there on the edge of that town, and And as a church, there are old established churches in New England. I mean, all over the place. Some of them are really tight with the gospel. Some of them maybe are much more closely related to the customs and the cultures of today's world. It just depends on where you find them. And so you can find those churches, and there's churches like Centerpoint, our church. It's a smaller church trying to reach out with a real, genuine, authentic gospel presentation, but really trying to be a family for the people that are there. And we've had some change this year. So Centerpoint was in a building that was hindering our ability to do ministry because all of our resources were going into the building and none of it could go into the ministry. And so we have since transitioned and are meeting in a school. And
mobile church.
Yeah, we're nomads.
We are nomads now.
And the majority of the church is in the back of the van, and down by the river was where the church is. But when you think about New Year's resolutions for a church like ours, what are some of the things that come to your mind when you think about maybe what God's doing with maybe the church in general in New England, but with a church like ours that's trying to make their way in New England?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about New Year's resolutions. The first thing I want to point out is that churches should have just the regular resolutions, primary, ready to go. We're going to teach the Bible. We're going to see people saved. We're going to baptize people.
Great Commission, going to all the world.
That should be, you should always have your old resolutions ready to go. But the new resolutions, I think one of the big things, I'm a big believer in the local church, which is, we're blessed in Wethersfield to have 4 evangelical churches, so we can collaborate with them. And they're all great guys, and they're all great church families.
Now you heard that from my friends in the South that are watching. We are blessed to have 4 churches.
4 churches in a town of 35,000-ish.
40,000 people.
It's a blessing because, we're all doing ministry and we're collaborating, and there's still people yet to be saved. And so when I think of New Year's resolutions, I think of what is the void that has to be filled. I think that's what we have jobs for. So we need to identify what is the need of our community, our local community, and then how are we going to be filling that? That's the resolution for me, is to identify that. Yeah. How are we going to identify the need of the community in order to better reach people and have them come to a saving faith in Jesus? So what do you think about that?
I love that. I mean, for me, the whole transition last year was intentionally to say, look, we could spend all of our time, all of our resources maintaining a building, getting this thing going, and being worried about it, and nervous about it. And it's nice to have it, but when that's everything, like, where is our money that we could put into to ministry? How are we reaching out to people? And for me, the new resolution that I would love for the church to have is for our primary focus, for everyone in the church to know that our primary focus is how are we reaching the lost? How are we reaching people in our community? And hopefully, we see that result in baptisms and people being saved. But in a place like this, some of it is just, are we being able to impact people in our community? Are we able to help people that are hurting? Counsel people that are struggling, work with families that are struggling through divorce issues or other issues. We've got kids that are struggling with the opioid epidemic, which is terrible up here. There are so many just broken and hurt people. The problem is none of them have even a base of spiritual support to encourage them, to lift them up. And I feel like as a church, we should be much more concerned about how are we building up what we preached on Sunday. How are we being living stones built up into the temple that God's calling us to be, rather than how do we have this brick and mortar stuff that is running and doing what we're doing. And so I really want to see us build that, and it's already happening. But I really want to see us see families transformed, see lives transformed in that way.
Yeah, and I think we all want that, and that's what we're called to, and that's the struggle. As we go into the new year, we say we're going to do it, especially as pastors, and then what happens? We get lost in the business. We get lost in the day-to-day, and obviously that's why I think there were roles established in the early church of you do this and I need to focus on this, and that obviously we're trying to free you up for your calling, and but I think that's the struggle, is you say you're going to do this, and then, well, that's how New Year's resolutions fail, is you get caught up in the day to day. I had a buddy say, we have a good business model at our church, and I was like, what does that mean? And he goes, well, we have a lot of young kids. They get raised in the church. They go away to college. They start families, and they come back, and they raise their kids. And I go, that's great. How are you reaching the lost? That's great. Your church will be sustained, but how are you reaching the lost?
Yeah.
It's like you get caught up in how are we going to just keep the church going, which obviously that was a real need for us last year. But how are we reaching the lost always needs to take priority and precedent.
Yeah, I mean, there's times you have to take care of your business and stuff, and the Bible
There's
tells us
plenty
to
of
do
time
that.
for business.
But if we miss that vision, I was encouraged. I'll tell you a story. I was encouraged this week. We our normal Wednesday night Bible study at church, we kind of had to change how we do it because we no longer have a facility, and so we're meeting in people's houses, and we had a group of ladies that were like, we want to do a particular study on Esther and a study for our women. So we've broken off into a women's study and a men's study, and we've had just sometimes upwards of 8, 9, 10 women at our women's study, and then me and one other man at our men's study. So we're struggling to get all of our men to come together, but just the other night we were talking, me and this other guy in our church, and he started saying, maybe we could take our men's study to a place down the road. We do a Bible study in like a local assisted living facility here, the one that my wife works at. And he's like, there's another one that's between where he and I live. He's like, what if we did our men's Bible study there? Talk to their coordinator, say, hey, any of the men that want to come and be a part of that will be there. And to see other people in the church saying, I've got a ministry idea, I've got a thing that we can do to reach out to other people, is exactly what I want to see happening in the church. I want to see people looking at the community and saying, hey, here is a place where legitimately we can do ministry, and then coming to me and saying, hey, pastor, how can we get that done? And that makes me smile as a pastor, to think, how can we get that done? Let's do it. Let's see what we can do.
It brings you joy when your congregation is coming up with the ideas and not leaving it to you, because that's your job.
Yeah.
So, you are all called to do ministry.
Yeah. And in our different places. I mean, I can't reach the people that are in, some of these people's lives that are here. I don't have the Connecticut cred, or I don't have the family connections, whatever. I mean, really, people will be able to reach their people better than I will be able to. I mean, they can introduce them to me, they can come to church and everything, but ultimately it boils down to, is your witness really changing lives? Is your witness bringing people to God? So, awesome. So, I don't really around here and see where things are going. We've got a new setup here today, and we're trying to work on it. So, just want to take a break a second. Remind you once again, please share this with your friends and family. Let them know what's going on here at Centerpoint. We would love to be able to be a part of reaching out. If you have thoughts and ideas, your own ideas of what are your resolutions or things that you would like to see happen here on the podcast this year, or other things, share those with us. Put them down in the comments and let us know. We've got our producer, John's here today, watching those comments and keeping an eye on them, and just want to encourage you with that. And so that makes me think, we talk about resolutions, here it's Stretched. It's a new thing for us. This is officially episode 8. I watch some of my own podcasts and vlogs, and you see on there, it'll be, hashtag 527, and I'm always like, it kind of rolls off my back. But now that we're actually doing it, I'm like, 500 is up. Wow, we got a long way to go. We're at 8. It's a new world, and like I said, you're younger than I am. I picked the college I went to. One of the factors of it was the college that I picked when I went to it had the internet.
I love that.
And the college, another college that I was looking at, the one my dad was teaching at, and my dad was the computer science professor at this college, and he was impressed because the school that we were looking at, OBU, had the internet, and his didn't have it yet. He's like, "What are you all doing? How'd you all get it?" And so that's. I came in on the beginning of it. We used a Linux system. It didn't have any of that click and point. It was all typing stuff in, C colon backslash dir and all, yeah. But it's been a while. I mean, me entering the internet, in college, and now I have kids that are, that are adults that are out there in the world, and so they obviously have grown up their whole life. You've grown up your whole life with this social, this digital world that's out there, and I just had what do you see as a resolution or a vision or a plan for what God could do, maybe specifically with Stretch, or what can happen with the internet for the gospel in the future?
Well, I think the internet's such a great tool. We've seen many people use it to the fullest. I mean, church ministries have their own streaming platforms now that you have to pay for sometimes. But they put great resources up there, so that's kind of like your donation.
That's right. We're gonna do Centerpoint
mandatory
Plus. That's what we're gonna
Centerpoint Plus, maybe down the road. But
the Phil DeLorean, so we're gonna get it all ready to go.
Yeah, I think the internet is such a good tool, and it dominates life that we have to be in that space. And so, what did you say again?
Well, I was just thinking, what is the future, or what is the resolutions that we
I think it's just keeping up with the trends and engaging in what is, do people want YouTube videos? Okay, then you need to be on YouTube. I think YouTube is the second most visited website ever.
Yeah.
Besides like Google.com
Google
or something.
And like Google owns YouTube now.
Right,
so
exactly.
It's all, Google bought YouTube, so it's all
Right.
part of that. I mean, when you go to a town, and you went to college or whatever, and you're like, I need to go find a church, what's the first thing you do?
Yeah, well, you Google though.
You Google up what church is,
What's
right?
their rating? No.
Yeah. You have that nowadays too. So,
Yeah.
But you Google them up. You look at their website. You check.
Just a side note, I always love church reviews on Google. It's like, what did you expect? No, but you Google them. You look at their website, which is ours has currently been under maintenance.
Yeah.
But it's gonna look nice.
It'll be good.
I guarantee. I'm the guy doing it, and he's the guy waiting.
That's right.
So,
He looks nice. But
you need a good website. You need to be able to show your church in a snapshot. And if you don't have a website, then it's really for a person like me. If your church doesn't have a website, then I might not ever know about you.
right.
Just period. I'm not even judging you. It's not a bad thing. You could have a great local ministry, and you might dominate the town in terms of your presence, which is great. But I'm never going to know about you if I'm up here in Connecticut and you're in a different state. You don't have a website. I'll never find you.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So I think you just need to be filling the spaces. So if YouTube's a top website, you need to be on YouTube. If Facebook, which is still top dog in terms of social media statistically, even though all the boomers are on there nowadays,
Yeah.
statistically it's still top dog. So yes, your church needs to have a Facebook page. There's this thing called Twitter. I don't know.
I'm too old for that.
No.
Instagram. The kids are doing the Instagram.
Instagram.
Not doing the Twitter.
But Instagram is shooting up, and Instagram's owned by Facebook.
Yeah.
And so, does your church have an Instagram? Are you filling that space, engaging that part of culture? Does your church have a Twitter? Does it have a Facebook?
Yeah.
Does it have a good website where people can engage your content, engage your message, your gospel message, and see what you're about? And possibly, that's how you engage with people back in the South where you're from, is through these media connections, just to see, so you can see what we're doing and what we're about.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the reason, and I know the first couple episodes of Stretch, what we're doing, we some of them didn't start on time. Some of them had audio issues. Last week we had audio issues, just weird things like that. We're in the learning process, trying to figure some of this stuff out. But what I love about it and what we're learning about it is that there really are so many great things that can happen on this space. A pastor of mine when I was younger, Craig Rochelle, who's at Life Church, that obviously does internet well. They know what they're doing. And one of the things he used to get is you get a lot of people that will talk about how bad the internet is. The internet's evil. You know, you got to block it out of everything. And he would talk about, well, the internet's not evil. The internet is neutral. It's a tool, you know. And there are people that use tools for good and for bad. You know, you can use you can use something to hurt somebody. You can use something to help somebody. You know, the a hammer can hit your thumb, but it can also build a building, sort of thing. And so the internet itself is neutral. What do you do with it? Are there bad things on it? There are some of the worst things humanity has ever created on it. But can we as a church redeem a part of that world and use it for a positive thing? Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, darkness is the absence of light, and so we've talked about this at Centerpoint recently in your preaching, and that if there's a void of darkness, then we need to be the light in that. And if the internet is that void of darkness, then the church has to be in there, which I think the church is doing a relatively good job overall. I think there's plenty of websites out there, blogs, resources, individual churches doing their thing. I mean, Craig's church is huge. Life Church is absolutely massive, mega church. I think there are plenty of churches doing that well.
So I read a blog this week about a church that opened up that was 100% virtual. It didn't have a facility, didn't have a location. Large church, you know, one of those new things going up. You know, obviously had some support behind it, and a lot of people asked to join it, but a 100% virtual church. Now I have some issues because I think
I was just gonna say we need a new half an hour. I didn't know you were gonna say that. We need a new half an hour to talk about a solely
we'll
virtual
talk about
church.
that next time. But there are people that are doing that, and there are people. I mean, I've known churches that have done internet mission trips where they get a bunch of their geeky people. They all set up some computers in a Sunday school classroom, and they're going to social sites, places where people hang out. They're going to Twitch places, and they're bringing the gospel with them. I mean, not annoying, obnoxious ways, but reaching out to those communities to let them know, hey, there are Christians in this realm, in this world, that are a part of some of these things. And I find that, you know, fascinating where we are. And for us, when I talk about what is a New Year's resolution for Stretch, and really for the whole Centerpoint 840 YouTube site, I really see it as a way for us to help expand churches throughout New England. I love the people that pastor up here in New England. They are a different breed. They are often people that have to work harder than any pastors I've ever seen, because it's expensive to live up here, or you're isolated and alone. I mean, if you're a pastor up in northern Maine, that's it. It's you,
and
a
the
bear,
caribou.
some moose, caribou, and those few people that you have a passionate heart for. And you love those people, but man, you're up there by yourself. And what this internet allows us to do is it allows us to connect with people better. And so I'm hoping that we can use this channel as a way to connect better with other pastors in the area. But it also allows us to empower a church that has lost their pastor. I've preached in some of these churches where they lost a pastor, a guy that had been there for a while, in the small community, a church that's probably never going to get over, you know, a few dozen people, because there's just not enough people in that community. And then they're trying to bring a pastor in, and they can't, because it's so hard to bring in a person with a family and say, hey, come and minister in this church here, and we can't pay you full time, and we don't have a parsonage for you. You're going to have to get a job, but the nearest town is 20 miles away. You're going to have to drive to it, and you start putting all those things in it. It's tough. But you have a God-fearing, God-loving deacon or just Sunday school teacher or a person in that church that's like, I'll do it. I just don't have the resources. And with the availability of the internet, we can pump pastors into that church to preach sermons for that person, or pump in Sunday school lessons and Bible studies. And they can do, in a very part-time sort of way, their part is loving and caring for that church, but also have resources that allow them to educate, lead, and then hopefully grow what God's doing in those communities. And I really see the reason I wanted to be in this world is because I really see that's the future of how we're going to reach some of these communities in New England. While we are begging people to come up and be church planters and be new pastors up here, while we're waiting to at least be able to tell these churches, here's a quality way you can study and learn about the Word of God, while this faithful lay person is going to lead and guide this church for the next year or however, and then continue to reach out to those people as they come up, as pastors down south, as all their kids graduate and they're empty nesters, come on up here, because there's places where churches are waiting for people to plug in.
I couldn't have said it any better than myself.
So we've got just a few minutes left, maybe a couple minutes left. Awesome. John showing me his blank phone. Really cool. So we have been blessed to be here today. Phil, do you have any parting remarks? Shots across the bow before we go.
Shots across. No, it's just I encourage you. You need to make goals for your New Year's resolutions. And you need to stick to them. They need to be practical, and they typically need to have a timeline in order to make it happen. You can't just say, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to read my Bible. I need to read my Bible this year, the whole thing this year. I need to lose 60 pounds by April.
Why are you looking at me?
I didn't look at you.
April? Oh, wow. I got 60 pounds. Don't do that. That is unhealthy. Phil does not know. He's been too skinny his whole life. 60 pounds by April is too much. Do 5 pounds a month.
But there are practical ways to make your New Year's resolutions come to fruition, and obviously we're going to do that as a church. We have goals. We haven't talked about them, but we have had dates for some of them, and so there are better ways to make sure your New Year's resolutions actually happen.
Sounds great. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Remember to continue to like, share, click that bell for notifications. I want to thank all the people that were a part of helping make this possible. Obviously, Phil, I want to thank him. You'll notice we have some great decor in the back. The dog, that's Texas. Say hi to Texas every once in a while. We want her to be more involved. Look how involved she is. Also, we have our wonderful producer, John Harris, has been here clicking the buttons. The sound has been working today. That's because John's here, and he's the master. He knows what's going on. Also, John Jr. is back there with him, so he had some help back there. So it's actually 1.5 Johns in the back getting stuff done. We're so glad for that. Thank you, everyone, for being here. God bless you. I encourage you to be stretched in order to reach out to your community. We'll see you guys again next week.